Okay, we've been talking about strategies that we can use to help us understand informational text. And we said that when we're reading informational text, we're reading about things that are what? True or not true? Happened or didn't happen?
True.
True, nonfiction, okay? One of the strategies we learned the other day was what? What was the first strategy we learned?
To
Identify the what? What's that D word? Details. So today, we're going to talk about the 4W's. And the 4W's, if we're able to answer these questions that the 4W's elicit, it'll help us better understand what we read. What do you think the 4W's stand for? Who?
What?
What?
Wait.
When?
Oh. And what? Wait.
Where? And why? So I guess the 4W's really ain't 4, it's 5. When we can answer questions using these leading words, we know we really understand what we're reading. So I'm going to read this story to you. You pay attention. I'm going to give you, what's that sheet of paper we had? You got your pencil?
Think.
Don't worry about it. Just have a seat. We'll get it later. Have a seat.
Yeah, I got it.
Jot down notes about the who, the what, the when, the where, and the how. So when I start mentioning the who, you write the people's names. When I start mentioning the what, that means what is the story about? The why tells us why it happened. The where, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. It talks about where the story takes place. And the when, maybe it gave a time of day, a season, a year. Okay, so that's what you pay attention to. Write the title of the story at the top of the page. Sit in at the lunch counter. I'm going to read this story. Sit in at the lunch counter. For almost 100 years, from the end of the Civil War until the 1960s, segregation was the law in parts of the southern United States. In the North, where it was not the law, many places practiced segregation anyway. For example, segregation meant African American and white students had to attend separate schools. In 1954, what would I write that? That's a what?
Oh, what?
A win.
Oh.
A win, 1954. The United States Supreme Court said that segregation in public schools went against the United States Constitution. The national government started forcing state and local governments to end segregation. However, private businesses believed they could still segregate. The Woolworth chain of stores was a private business. In Greensboro, North Carolina, that's a what?
Oh.
Where?
Where? You said what?
Greensboro, North Carolina. As in many other southern cities, African American shoppers were welcome to purchase items at Woolworth.
North Carolina?
NC, just put NC. And then where's the store we're talking about? What's the name of the store we're talking about? Woolworth, right there.
So who? Or what?
Well, the who is, what kind of people are we talking about?
White people.
And?
Black.
So that's what you put up there in the who. And what's that S word that I've been saying over and over?
Segregation.
Yeah, that's the what. That's what we're talking about. Okay. It was fine for them to spend their money in the store. They could eat at the stand-up snack bar or bakery counter. One section of the store was off limits to African Americans, though. That section was a long L-shaped lunch counter. A sign said whites only. As you can see, this is the way businesses used to look back in the day. And if a sign said whites only, that means black people could not enter that area. If you did, you went to jail or they killed you. Okay.
Why?
We'll talk about it afterwards. The lunch counter would not serve African Americans. That was about to change. On February 1st, 1960, Something took place that changed American history. The news of it shocked the nation. The story of what happened inspired millions of people. This is what happened. 4 African American college students sat down at the Woolworth lunch counter. They tried to order something to eat and drink. Why was that amazing? It may be hard to understand now, so many years later, but at that time it was a truly courageous act. Why do you think that they feel like these black people that sat at this white person's counter, why do you think that they view them as being brave?
That they had courage for themselves.
Okay, but why? Why would you say they had courage?
Because they weren't scared.
Yeah, and in that time frame, what could have happened to them?
They could have died.
Yeah, they could have lost their life just for wanting to eat or sit at the same counter white people sit at. So as you can see, 50 years ago is not like it is now. We're blessed. Okay, let's keep reading. They tried to order something to eat and drink. Why was that amazing? It may be hard to understand now, so many years later, but at the time it was a truly courageous act. It took real bravery on the part of the students. The students were trying to do something they had rarely been done before. They were trying to end segregation in private businesses. So the what is also end segregation. End it. They want to end it.
So I'll put.
No, you can just that's another clue. That's another detail. End, E-N-D, end segregation. Okay. So what does it mean if we want to end segregation?
Like.
What do we want the blacks and whites to be able to do?
Come together.
Yeah, we want them to come together. Yeah. Okay. The students were trying to end segregation in a private business. The 4 students had met at a college in Greensboro. They were Ezell A. Blair, Franklin E. McCain, Joseph McNeil, and David Richmond. They all were African Americans. So where would these names go?
Who?
At the who. At the who. So I just put Ezell, E-Z-E-L-L. E-Z-E-L-L. Franklin. You can just put Frank.
Where do you see Frank?
Right here. Joseph.
J.
And David. That was 4 African Americans. Okay. And here are their pictures. Those are the men.
Mine's taller than us.
Look at the buses. As I read, pay attention to the way people are sitting. Look at where black people are. As they got to know each other, the 4 young men talked about what life was like under segregation. They knew that the civil rights movement, a movement against segregation, was growing. They knew that several years earlier, Martin Luther King Jr. had led the Montgomery bus boycott. During that boycott, the African-American people of Montgomery, Alabama, had refused to ride the city's segregated buses. After more than a year, the courts ordered an end to segregated buses in Montgomery. Segregation was still in force in most places in the South. Joseph McNeil had gone home to visit his family for the holidays. Upon arriving at the bus station in Greensboro, he became hungry. However, he was not allowed to sit down and eat in the station restaurant. He thought this was very wrong. Joseph McNeil and his friends had heard their parents and grandparents complain about segregation. It seemed to them that no one was doing much to end it. The students agreed the time had come to take some action. They're on a bus. Where are the white people?
On the front.
They're at the front. Who's in the back?
Black.
Blacks would have to get on in the front and pay, then get back off the bus and walk to the back and get on. Black people.
It's a black person right there.
That's in the back. That's the top photo shows a bus in a southern city before the Montgomery bus boycott. Transportation was segregated. The bottom photo was taken after bus segregation ended. Okay. The 4 young people made their plans. They chose F.W. Woolworth and Company as their target. It was part of a chain of stores across the country. It was well known. The students hoped to convince Woolworth to change its policy of segregation. Not just the customers were segregated. The staff was segregated as well. The waitresses were white. The people who prepared the food and cleaned up were African American. The students' plan was to walk into the Greensboro store, sit at the counter, order food, and eat. They did not want to hurt anyone. They did not want to get hurt. They planned to be nonviolent. but they were going to stay at the counter until they were served. Before leaving the campus, they dressed in nice clothes. They were scared. That didn't stop them. They were set to do what they had planned. They walked into the store. They had bought a few items. Then they sat down at the lunch counter. They ordered something to eat. Geneva Tisdale, an African-American worker, was behind the counter. At first, she thought the four young men were simply confused. Maybe they were from out of town and just did not understand. She ignored them. The waitresses ignored them as well. They acted as though the four students were invisible. At last, one of the waitresses spoke up. She told the students that African-American people were not served at the counter. Another African-American worker told the four men that they were troublemakers. The worker said that their action would only make things worse for other African-Americans. Where are they sitting? At the lunch counter, right?
At the end.
What types of jobs did black people hold in these restaurants? They prepared the
Food,
and clean.
up.
What did the white people get to do?
Serve.
Yeah, they got the easy part. We would get all the dirty jobs. Okay. The manager of the store was a white man named Clarence Harris. Harris knew he had a problem. He told the students to leave. The four young men would not get off their chairs. Harris went to the local police station 2 blocks away. He talked to Chief Paul Calhoun, who told Harris that there was nothing the police could do. The store's policy of segregation was not the law. As long as the students behaved, he had no reason to take any action. So was the police chief ready to come haul them off?
No.
No. He's saying they ain't breaking no law. Y'all really breaking the law because technically segregation ended. One of the students, McCain, recalled that a special thing happened then. An elderly white woman spoke to the group of students. She told them that she was proud of them. She said that she only wished they had done something like this 10 or 15 years earlier. McCain thought this woman gave them all courage. Her words helped him. So what did that white woman stand up and say? That she felt like they were what? Brave. Like that. Yeah, she was proud of them. Okay? He felt proud and good about what they were doing. The students sat at the counter for hours. Harris closed the store early. Who was Harris?
The manager.
He's the manager. The students left quietly. They had not been served at the counter, but they were not giving up. They told Harris that they planned to return the next day. The four students had done something new. People called it a sit-in. The students had expected to be arrested. They came out of the store peacefully. Blair, McCain, McNeil, and Richmond became known as the Greensboro Four. Word traveled quickly. Even before the students returned to their school, other students had heard about what took place. Franklin McCain said later, "I think it was all over North Carolina within a matter of just an hour or so." That night, other students gathered to join the four. A larger group of students went to the lunch counter the next day, February the 2nd. They sat for long hours. Again, nobody served the African Americans. One group of customers made fun of them. However, no one was hurt. No one was arrested. Word continued to spread. A TV station sent a reporter and a camera. A newspaper sent reporters. Every day the students returned to the store. African American students from many colleges came. Some white students joined them. By February 5th, more than 300 students were joining the protest. The sit-in in Greensboro started a chain of other events. Students in other cities heard about the sit-in and decided to take action too. By the end of the week, there were sit-ins in other cities. In Durham, North Carolina, African American students and white students sat at the lunch counter in a local store. Another sit-in took place at a store in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and another in Raleigh, North Carolina. Word spread across the South. Sit-ins took place in cities such as Chattanooga, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, and Portsmouth, Virginia. In some places, students formed lines called picket lines in front of stores that treated African Americans unfairly. The picket lines told people not to shop at these stores. In Greensboro, the sit-in lasted for almost 6 months. At last, on July 21st, 1960, the company gave in. The lunch counter at the Woolworth store in Greensboro was desegregated. As it turned out, the Greensboro Four were not the first African Americans to be served at the lunch counter. Geneva Tisdale, the African American county worker, and 2 of her co-workers were the first. By the end of the year, hundreds of other stores began to serve African Americans.